Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Amazing Tennis Podcast. Today, I have a guest. I've been actually really excited to bring him on. His name is Edin Sedovic. He's the founder of Evidence Nutrition. He's built a massive online presence by simplifying complicated nutrition topics and helping people take control of their health in a real sustainable way. I've been following his content for a while now, and not only do I love how much value he shares, but I also just really like him as a person. He knows his stuff, and I know this episode is going to be super informative, whether you're an athlete, a parent, or just trying to feel better in your own body. So let's get into it. Edin, welcome. Thank you for taking your time to be here today.
Wow, that was an intro. That was nice. Thank you. I'll make sure they call you every time I'm on a podcast.
Right? I wrote this
That was
nicely.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was. I'll take it. That was the best intro I've ever got, I think. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. The one thing I'll say is I don't know. Massive is a very relative term, but yeah, the world of scientific literacy and nutrition and for misinformation, I should say, is it's always been strong and it's always been an issue, which is where I kind of started with my content. So it's nice to actually use my degree for something that's not just putting it on the wall. You know,
So
my
tell
degree.
people more that don't know you, like
So
they're gonna listen. Tell
yeah,
us like what's your degree? Give me a little bit about your background.
so my background, my life story is I started playing tennis, and it is important to the story because I was playing tennis and got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was about 14 years old. And so what ended up happening there, for those that don't know what happens when you get diagnosed, you tend to lose a lot of weight. And I was already a skinny kid. I was already, maybe 130 pounds before I started losing weight. 130 pounds at like maybe 5'10", 5'9", 5'10", something like
Oh my
that.
God.
And so that's quite lean already. And then over one summer, I lost till I was just about like 85, 90 pounds. And so that's like dangerously thin. So my mom got very concerned, as any Eastern European mother would, but especially when she's feeding me all the time. And then, people are like, yo, are you feeding your kid? I'm sure people said that to her, and she was just concerned as a mother anyways, as I'm sure you would be for your boys. So, yeah. And then after, went to the doctor, found out I had diabetes. And that was what started me on this like realization that the food you eat impacts your life. I know that seems like super simple. You're like, okay, yeah, but you don't really actively think about that until you kind of have a moment, whether some people, have a heart attack, or some people, the doctor tells them like they're obese, or the doctor tells them they have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or something. They never really think about the food that's going in their body unless they have a moment of someone telling them that. And so, especially at 14, in fact, the funny story is the day that I officially got diagnosed, I was going in to the doctor to get some blood work done. And on my way to the doctor's office, I was having a Dr. Pepper. Never will, like, I like them. I enjoy those drinks, but I don't have them that often. So it's kind of funny that memory is stuck in my head. Like I was just like, oh yeah, Dr. Pepper. And then I end up setting like a hospital record for highest blood sugar that they've had in a long time. So it's kind of ironic in that sense. Fast forward from there, that was 2009. Maybe a couple of years later, I'm playing tennis. Now I get to see the crossroad of how type 1 diabetes impacts my tennis, and how what I eat impacts my diabetes and what that does to my tennis as well. So there's this like intersection. And so that's kind of when I start getting interested in like, I'll say eating healthy. I very rarely use that terminology of eating healthy, because healthy is very context dependent, but I'm sure we'll dive into that more later. So I start thinking about, oh, how can I eat better? And, my mom always, as every mom wants their kid to have the best. She always wanted me to eat better or do whatever was in trend at the time, whether it was, quinoa was when I was a kid, or I guess when I was a teenager, I was like, oh my God, quinoa is this like new thing. And then avocados were these new thing, superfoods, right? When all the superfoods have their trend. And so, you start, and that was the moment when I start thinking like, oh, wow, how does that actually impact what I'm doing on the court? How does that impact my blood sugars? How does that impact my tennis? Do I feel a certain way? And then I realized like, wow, okay, there's like a science behind this. This isn't just like some foo-foo magic stuff, or it's not by chance. So I actually was thinking of going into exercise science until I had a great team at the hospital that I was in that was caring for me at the time. They don't care for me anymore because I moved, but if I still lived in that area, I would definitely still be with them at McMaster Hospital for anyone that's in the Hamilton area. But yeah, the the team told me like, hey, and this was actually from the kinesiologist on the team. He said, hey, don't go into exercise science. I said, what? Why? And he goes, don't do it. You don't want to do it. He said, go into nutrition. That's what you seem interested in. Like, because I developed a pretty good relationship with these people. You see them every 2 to 3 months. So he said, go into nutrition. And if you want, minor or take extra classes in exercise science or exercise physiology. So that's pretty much what I did. And I went and I got a degree in nutrition and dietetics in Toronto. So, that's fast forward another few years. I end up getting into school for that. That's when my, tennis career went down. Not that it ever went up really, but got into got into an education. I just felt like I was more interested in learning something, which, as you can understand, and maybe a lot of your followers can understand, when you're playing tennis, it's your life, and then you kind of look for a new meaning. And so nutrition was like that new meaning for me. I'll be honest with everyone here that it wasn't always like perfect match for me. The first year I really struggled, and then after that I kind of learned how I learn, and then got into learning about the things that I enjoyed about nutrition. I'm like, damn, like organic chemistry seems like such a, if anybody's ever taken organic chemistry classes, they're sitting there going, oh my God, trauma, because it is very traumatizing to take those classes because they're extremely challenging. And then you're sitting there like, what does that have to do with nutrition? But then when you do start to finally like connect the dots and understand how different types of, molecules or different types of maybe nutrients react differently in the body, and, learning about antioxidants, and like you hear the word antioxidants and free radicals. Maybe you don't hear free radicals as often, but then you understand what those things do and how they function. You're like, damn, this is really cool, actually. And so, fast forward now, I just spend my days yelling at people about digestive processes that they did not want to learn about, but I'm forcing it down their throat anyways. So yeah, it's super cool. That's pretty much my life story, but it's super cool. And it started with tennis in a way, and then it just kind of spiraled from there.
Unlock your language potential with Preply. Ready to learn a new language? Well, with Preply, connect with experts with tutors from around the world for personalized lessons in over 50 languages, including Spanish, French, and Mandarin. Enjoy the flexibility of one-on-one video sessions that fit your schedule, learning from the comfort of your home. Our passionate tutors ensure engaging lessons that keep you motivated as you build confidence in speaking and expand your vocabulary. Join thousands of satisfied learners and transform your language skills today. Sign up now with the link in our description. Your new language awaits. Yeah, so no, it's pretty cool. And a little background how we met also. You had a client here in Florida, and we were one day I was practicing with her. We met, anyways, and then fast forward, you are my nutritionist, and you're helping me and stay on track and everything. Any advice that I need, I come to you. Like even like from the smallest things, when somebody just sends me something on Instagram, if I'm drinking or eating something, I'm like, wait, is he? Because honestly, like, and just this is not just for the podcast or anything, every time there's like because now there's just so much information out there, right? There's like, oh, this is good, or this is not good. One day you read that this is good, the next day it's like, and honestly, from like how much I've known you, and like I just go to you. I just trust you the most with this, and I don't even want to like go anywhere else. because you are educated, you also know tennis, so it's a win-win, for me. But it's like, just
Yeah.
you're not just like for tennis, it's also for general health and everything, because you've
Yeah.
dealt with actual health issues, and you have different clients with different needs. But
Yeah.
your content also, like, and like, you blew up recently in the last like few months also on social media. Well, blew up, yes,
Hmm.
and you're
Yeah.
still
Yeah. Sure.
growing,
Sure.
obviously, but
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I mean, you're putting in so much time, so much effort, and I mean, I love your content because it's funny, and it's just like your personality is like, but like, you then make it into educational way too, so it's not like you're
Yeah.
just listening to somebody like blah blah blah, and it's like you lose
Yeah.
attention and you lose focus. So it's good, and you've built a really big, online, presence, and by educating, people, like, in a super honest, real, funny way. But like, how did it
Mhm.
start? How were you like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this now? Like, how and why did you start that journey?
So thanks. First of all, that's a great question. Before I go into that, I will say that Emma and I also played at the same tennis club when we were kids for a very
But I
brief
didn't
period
know
of time.
that.
Whether, yeah, neither did I until later,
Yeah.
but whether or not we ever coincided at any time, because I was only there in the summer times, who knows? But it's just another fun fact that we kind of later found out.
Yeah.
No, but as for my how I built the following, obviously, I love my followers and all, um, but I didn't, start for that reason. In a way, I suppose. I guess I never was the person that chases like fame or attention, because I know a lot of creators like that sort of thing and kind of feed into that sort of thing, but I don't like it. Funny enough, I'm more than happy around my friends, to be quote unquote the life of the party or whatever. But truth be told, I would say I'm pretty quiet and reserved. Not, again, when you get to know me, sure, maybe I'm a little bit louder, and my voice is loud. But yeah, so I've never been really driven by fame. That's for sure. I've never wanted to be famous because and I don't think I am, but I just kind of want people to get that idea. The one thing that I did, I just really was annoyed by something. And I think when you're annoyed by something or when you see a problem and you want to fix it, that's kind of like the biggest driver for you. And so it really was, for me, it's always been very steady. And while my growth over the last year on Instagram specifically has been for sure quite rapid, it still feels like it was very like drastic, or sorry, not drastic, very, you know, slow over time.
Yeah.
Because for me, I started making these videos 5 years ago. And there's always been very like different stages to how I've made videos. So at the start, I thought, I don't know, I guess my biggest value is showing people recipes. And then I realized I don't really like that. I don't really like making recipes. Fast forward to later realizing, well, it still kind of helps people, so I'll do it anyways. But a lot of my content, I realized I was trying to, at first, like anyone does, they look at the
Yeah.
people that they enjoy their content, and like they almost try to mimic that. And then I
Yeah.
realized that, well, okay, I'll use a great example of someone who really inspired me. It was like Lane Norton. You probably don't know who that is, but he's a researcher in the space, and he in the nutrition space, and he's got a huge following now. And at the time, he was probably one of the biggest evidence-based, or one of the only evidence-based creators, and I liked his style. And so I thought, okay, cool. He later started down the path of these like reaction type videos too. And you know, that's kind of how I started. But I would always watch the videos and think, oh, I want to do that. And then, it wasn't because I wanted to be like him. It was more so the thought of, hopefully this makes sense, but I would watch the videos and be like, oh, he forgot to mention this, or he forgot to mention this. And I would find myself like in the comment section going, well, no one's going to see that. I would go to leave a long comment. I'm like, I'll just look like some, butthead, leaving a long comment. And I never wanted it to come across as hate. And that's one thing I think that I'll let anyone hold me accountable to that follows me. I will never leave hate comments on people's videos because it takes them a lot of time to make them. And maybe something comes across and they don't understand what a joke that I'm making, but I will never try to make fun of someone. I will never try to bring them down. I might criticize something that they said, but that's kind of how my videos started. It was like, okay, well, they're not going to listen to me if I just comment. And that happened to me a few times with a few female creators, I'll say,
Okay.
wellness girlies, as they call them now. And I thought, wow, these like, and they would leave comments like, I would criticize something that they say. For example, taking a juice cleanse. Those are the ones that get me riled up. And I'd be like, well, how are you pushing this to millions of followers? And maybe I would say, like, ask that. Why are you pushing this to millions of followers? And like, you're getting paid for this and you're not disclosing it, that you're getting paid for it. And they would just say, like, they would brush me off. Things like, oh, shut up. You have no followers. You're just trying to clout chase this and that. And I'm like, I understand how that looks, but I'm not interested. So that
Yeah.
really is how I started. And then I started making videos about topics. I wouldn't actually include the other person's video. And then I shortly realized, like, by showing other people my videos, I would show them my videos and say, what are your thoughts on this? Because I wasn't getting any views. And I thought,
Yeah.
not again, it's not the fact of trying to get views. It's the idea that, well, if I'm only getting 100 views, that's only reaching 100 people and only has the ability to teach 100 people.
Yeah.
How do I teach more people?
Yeah.
And so, because these are conversations I'm having every day, right? Like
Yeah.
with my work. So yeah, that's how I started it. And I would ask people, and then I would show my brother, for example. I would show him a video and watch when his eyes look away from the screen. And that was my way of gauging retention
Okay.
before people, like, before analytics. And so I would start to look when he looks away, and I'm like, okay, I lost him. I was boring. Or he would be, really rude and just be like, hey, this fucking sucks, dude. So hopefully you can bleep that out. Sorry with that. But
That's
he'd be like,
fine.
this sucks. This sucks, dude. And I'd be like, this is boring. No one cares. He would say stuff like that. Like, no one cares, dude. And it was actually like one moment when he told me that no one cares. I was like, okay, I got to find a way to make people care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was when I realized, like, I'm just not letting my personality out. Let's try that. Like,
Yeah.
let's try in, because I was being evidence based, and so I was reading all this literature and presenting it all. And as you said earlier, that's kind of boring. Like, you intentionally did not get a degree in nutrition or in
Yeah.
a science degree right now, maybe. And so you don't care. Maybe you have a degree in something else, or maybe you have a job in something else. You're like, I didn't open Instagram to work. I opened Instagram to be entertained. So then I tried to
Yeah.
start making things entertaining without losing the evidence-based side of things. And, that's how things started to grow. I started being humorous and all of this, but I never, like, one of the key tenets of my page is that I never create a post with the intention of just tearing down a creator, despite getting accused of it all the time. If you watch any of my videos, I'm always talking about their point. I might make a funny jab to, or a funny comparison, but it's always about the point that they're making and not the person that's
Yeah.
making the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you made it this far in the podcast, I'm so excited to tell you that today's sponsor is Cure Hydration. Cure Hydration is a premium wellness brand that's focused on providing effective hydration solution. Their electrolyte drink mixes are made with clean, science-backed natural ingredients delivering essential electrolytes, vitamins, and minerals without added sugars or artificial flavors. I use them on a daily basis. First thing in the morning when I wake up before coffee, I have them. I have them throughout my practices, and they taste actually really good for, not having any sugars or artificial flavors. I really love them. They're perfect for anyone, really. They're convenient on the go packets. They make it easy to replenish fluids anytime, anywhere. They're committed to sustainability, and the brand uses eco friendly packaging, allowing you to hydrate responsibly. So elevate your hydration game with Cure Hydration and support your journey to optimal health. Head to description to find out more and make sure to use code EMA20 at the checkout. That makes sense. And I mean, like, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you're just staying true to who you are. And like you said, it was like trial and error. You're just being yourself, because if you were trying to
Yeah.
fake something or pretend something, then like that would take a lot of effort. So you're just being
Yeah.
yourself, and in a
especially
raw
because I
way,
put
but you
out.
never hurt anybody. Like you never, like you said, you never make fun of that person, but it's off the point. And I've noticed that. So I
Yeah,
think that's huge.
there are definitely some creators that are clearly, how should I say this? They're clearly grifting in a way, that I might take more frequent jabs at, because I know they don't really care about their followers. They just kind of care to make money, and it's
Yeah,
very clear.
yeah,
But especially the first time I'm seeing their video or something like that, I'd like to think, maybe I'm not nice. Okay, maybe you don't see me as nice. That's fine, but I'm not attacking people. That's the
yeah,
key. That's the key of this channel, is to never attack people, because you're not going to learn if you get attacked. You might learn if I make you laugh, because you'll remember the thing that made you laugh. And therefore, hopefully, if I can
exactly.
make that
Yeah,
thing be a scientific fact of some sort, then maybe you have a better chance of learning something. And
yeah,
so that's kind of how it started. And then the other aspect of that is, you've already alluded to it a few times, is yeah, I make at least one video every single day. And I've done that for about 500 days or so. I've missed one day, but on average, I still haven't. I've gone like 1.85 videos per day for
oh my
over
God,
500 days.
that's what I was gonna ask you. That's one of my questions. Like, do you
Yeah.
feel pressure to constantly put out content, like, or you found balance with it? Like, I don't know. Do you get stressed out about, oh, I have to post today, or like, how do you manage that? Uh,
So yes, I get stressed out a lot. It's I get stressed out mainly because it's me. It's not, I don't get stressed out inherently by Instagram. I get stressed, or like my followers need to see me. Like, it's not that. It's like, it's almost like a challenge I made for myself, 500 or so days ago, that
okay,
I wanted to, I said that if I wanted this thing to go somewhere, I needed to be seen frequently. And people,
okay,
like, in order to build trust with people, people need to see you more frequently. I
okay.
thought in moments like that, like Lane Norton, like the guy I mentioned, well, why is Bio Lane so trusted, so trustworthy? Well, he's consistently showed up every single day. You see his content, you see the hard work, you see all the hours of research in the videos. Okay, so I have to do that. And
Mhm.
so at first, it was a real struggle to get into the swing of doing a video every single day. But now I've found methods and ways of, I maybe film two in one day, and then I'll maybe not have to worry about it the day that I want to, take an off day, or whatever. So I will sometimes batch produce content,
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
still, nonetheless, each piece of content takes about on average, 3 hours. I think it takes for me to ideate, create, edit, film. So 3 to 4
And
hours, and some take a lot longer though, because it's a lot more like research intensive. For example,
you do it all by yourself?
everything by myself.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. I don't
that's
have
that's
kids, by
actually
the way, for everyone
impressive.
at home.
Yeah.
I don't have kids, by the way, so that helps.
Oh, but that's a lot of work, and but I
Yeah.
bet you. I mean, you found your ways, and you're getting better each day with it. And I mean, like everything in life, right?
Like everything in life, if you want to work hard, sometimes it feels a little toxic, but it's a toxic relationship that works. So it is what it is.
And the last question about the content, like,
Yeah.
what's been the hardest part about growing online? Like, what do you find is the hardest part, and what keeps you going? Is it just something that you're challenging yourself, or is it because you see the impact you're making on others? What is that? Today's video is sponsored by Lucky in Love. Gone are the days of ladies' golf and tennis apparel that all look the same. Lucky in Love is ushering in a new age. The high end women's apparel brings options fit for the modern, expressive woman. Partake in the ultimate luxury and shop Lucky in Love for your new favorite fashion items for women. Also, super exciting news. You can now shop my collection with Lucky in Love. Designing this was such a dream, and I'm so proud to share it with you. And use code EB20 to get 20% of your next purchase.
I think the hardest part is, in the moment, knowing if something's working, because you can very easily look back and be like, oh, this worked, this didn't. Maybe 6 months ago, this worked, this didn't, because you're looking back retroactively, right? So it's very easy to see like, okay, that posting every day, great idea. Also, maybe upgrading my camera, great idea. Really, upgrading the microphone was a great idea because then people actually stuck around for the video. But in the moment, you first video, second video, third video, fourth video, you're like, I don't know. And so I think the hardest part of, I guess, overall about content creation is like with anything, and tennis as well, is what I'm doing making any difference? Because I'm showing up every day. I don't know if I want to keep showing up. It's like, it really is, you have to show up for yourself every day, because if I'm showing up every day for someone else or for my followers or whatever, then to be honest, that's not going to last very long.
Yeah.
So I think it's finding a way for you to justify to yourself why it's important to show up every day and do this same thing every day. Because watching and reacting to videos that spewed this, sometimes I'm watching a video that has the same script as another video. And I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
it's almost like I've heard this video
Yeah.
before of misinformation from someone else. And I'm like, why react to this? Well, I got sent that video 100 times in my DMs. So I have to react to it because 100 people maybe didn't see my last video. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it gets tough when you feel like you're kind of saying the same thing over and over again as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I then remind myself like why I'm doing it. Those things that I mentioned to you is like, why am I doing it ultimately? Is this for
Mhm.
fame? Is this for whatever? No. Is this for money? Surely not, because I do not get paid for the content that I create. So I do it for educating people. Does it end up benefiting me financially? Candidly, yes, it does. Don't worry, guys. But I do not get paid for the views that I make. So it really is, which I actually appreciate, by the way, because it really does reinforce the fact that I do it for, the love of the game, so to speak, because I
Yeah.
like creating content.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good. Well, let's get into the questions for tennis, specific questions. Okay, this is the fun part because I posted the other
Let's do
day
it.
on Instagram and I have some questions. Most of them like are repetitive, honestly, but because okay, the most common thing that people ask is what's recommended to eat before the match and after the match.
My favorite question. Remember how I just talked about hearing the same thing every single day and recreating the same video every single day? That's
Yeah.
pretty much me with every new tennis client. They ask me the same question first thing, and it's that question. Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm gonna start the TLDR before we start is whatever you like. Now we're gonna get deeper into it. So eating whatever you like is most important. And I know that sounds silly because somebody will go, oh, well, I love fried chicken, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there is definitely some context specific things that will impact your performance. Absolutely. But the most important fundamental rule is that if you do not like it, you will not continue to do it for longer than you have to. And longer than you have to is how long you can, manage to go. For example, if you hate avocado and somebody tells you to eat avocado every single day with your meals, that's not going to last very long because you're just going to be going like this, plugging your nose to eat the food. So I think that's, first concept, boom, you have to like it. Okay. Then from there, let's try to focus on building habits that can work for you. So for example, the kind of structure or composition of the meal before a tennis match. Ideally, you want to eat it, 3 to 4 hours. Your last big meal should be 3 to 4 hours before a match. Now, I know for those of you watching that are maybe up and coming juniors or whatever, you're like, but sometimes I have to play a match and then I have to play another match and then another match and I don't have 3 hours. I know that's tennis. It sucks and that's timing. Emma's over here having like trauma. She's like, oh God, I know.
How do I
But
go 34 hours without eating? Okay.
yeah, yeah, or that. And the beauty is you don't have to, but the last like big meal, the
Big
one that's
meal,
gonna
big
have you
meal.
like,
I get it.
yeah,
I know.
big
I'm
meal.
kidding.
So the
Yeah.
one that has you like, oh, like you
Yeah.
can't be having a food baby before you go on the court, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of the idea. So if you're having a last big meal, before, you want the structure of it, quite simply, the general composition, to be moderate to high in carbohydrates, moderate to high in protein, and moderate to low in fats. So what does that mean? That means like having perhaps like a rice bowl with maybe chicken or beef or something like that, and some veggies that preferably are not very high in fiber. While fiber is fantastic and we definitely want to get lots of fiber in our diet, pre-match, not so ideal. Just because good nutrition maybe won't win the match, but good nutrition or bad nutrition will definitely lose the match. So if you are really gassy on the court or really need to on the court, that will lose you the match for sure. So keeping fiber relatively low before the match, doesn't have to be zero, but so having things like lettuce, having things like spinach, having things like zucchini, those kind of things for your veggie choices, they're there to keep you full there, and they'll also hydrate you because they're quite a bit of water in these vegetables, but not extremely high in fat. And then and so that would be a good option, for example. So how can you relate that to a tournament? Maybe if you're playing tournaments in the US, you could go to a place like what's that place called, Chipotle, obviously, which is great as an option, has very high sodium, yes, but for a tennis player, that's okay. You're about to play matches. I think, is it called Qdoba, something like that? The US has these kind of chains. Anyway, I don't know, something like that. Or you could do like a turkey wrap. Again, turkey is a lean protein source. A wrap has carbohydrates because we want carbohydrates to keep your energy levels high. And usually you might have like an avocado or something, which will have some fats, but not too much.
What about dairy?
Dairy is case dependent. Dairy is case dependent because some people have some sensitivities to dairy, and that would be on a case by case basis. But if you are okay with it, then it should be fine. A Greek yogurt, for example, is absolutely fine. In this case, I would say lean towards the lower fat, like a skim milk or a skim, like a 1%, 2% kind of maybe 0% yogurt. For in terms of fat source, I know people are like, oh my God, but I love the whole milk version. It just is better. Okay, well then, realize that the one, big thing that I always want to hype about when I'm talking to athletes, especially, is you are never going to have the best nutrition. Because they always ask, what's the best thing that I can eat? You have to realize that no matter what you choose, it's a choice, and which has a give and a take. So if you like yogurt a lot and you really think that's a convenient choice before your match, well, that has to be a trade-off has to be made with, okay, well, maybe I have to have the lower fat version, which I don't like as much. Or if I want to have a good meal, maybe I can't have a home cooked meal because I'm 4,000 kilometers away from home playing a tournament in some random country. So these things, just remember that you will likely never have the perfect nutrition. It's about making the perfect choice in the situation that you have. But dairy is absolutely fine. It has carbohydrates in it, unless, again, you are lactose intolerant, in which that's something you'll figure out pretty quickly. And then maybe, you stay away from it. But that's definitely a case-by-case basis. Then after the match, you were saying, after the match, we could start to look at including more of the fats, including a higher fiber meal because we want to get full fast. And especially because we're going to be tired. Then looking at we want it to be moderate to high carb again, high protein, and we want it to be moderate fats. So especially if you have another tournament the next day or another match of the tournament the next day, maybe still not having, deep fried foods. I'm not saying avoid them, but timing wise, probably not a good time to have it. So you could opt for a steak bowl, opt for a pasta with, a tuna pasta salad or a chicken pasta with whatever. So these kind of options are great for post-match, and you have a lot more flexibility post-match, assuming there's no other match an hour after.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of information.
Yes, about
but it does make sense. Okay, let's say I have a match at 9 a.m. I
Okay.
have to warm up at 8. I have to be on
Yeah.
court from 8 to 8:30 to warm up, but I already have to be warming up at 7:30, like my pre on court warm up. Okay, so at 7:30 I need to
Yeah.
be ready. So what do I have to get up and eat what for that match?
Again, something that you like, but we'll go like I'll create an abstract,
And what
kind of
time?
food group.
6 a.m.
So
I have to get
so
up at 5.
time. So wake up. If you are one of those people that wakes up and can't eat right away, well then yeah, you might have to wake up even earlier. But if you're someone that can like just wake up and eat, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Then that's kind of good.
Yeah.
So ideally, that one is one of those examples where I'd aim for 3 hours before the match. Realistically, you can always grab something small like a bar or some fruits, some dates, whatever. An hour before the match starts, if you're still feeling a little bit peckish, you can always snack a little bit. Um, and you even keep candy on court. That's always a great convenient option with high carbs that will help one not have sticky hands, because people are like, oh my god, I want to eat dates. I'm like, okay, dates are great, but like they're super sticky, you know that, right? Like they're a little inconvenient to keep on a court unless your grip is slipping, so then that's convenient, I guess. But I would say aim for 3 hours before the match time. That would be
Okay.
like your last big meal. Then
Okay.
again, you can always have other options. So I would say, grab omelet that'll have moderate fat from the egg yolk, and 3 to 4 egg, depending on the person, right, and their size. Like you don't require as much as me. For me, it'd be like a 6 egg omelet with some veggies and lots of fruit, because we want to hydrate you. You've just been sleeping, and for hopefully 8 hours, you haven't been drinking anything either. You've just been breathing out CO2. So
Mm-hmm.
you are likely going to be dehydrated, like most people are in the morning. So it's a game of let's get hydrated so that when we're on the court, we're going to be losing hydration through sweat the entire time and losing sodium. So having a nice meal, I would say like a savory dish would be ideal there, but with some fruit, lots of fruit to keep us
Okay.
hydrated and give us that extra carbohydrates as well. If you have watermelon, if that's in season, pineapple, mangoes, things of that nature.
Okay.
Berries, of course, but yeah.
Okay, good. I think that's a lot of good information, helpful for everyone because you went really in depth with that. Okay. Another big question, and you just kind of like touched upon it. Okay, so a lot of players, even myself. No, no. Okay, before I get into that question,
Okay, fire
coffee.
away.
What do we think about coffee? Exactly.
I was just
What do
finishing it.
we think? Like, okay, because okay, I'm from Bosnia. You're also. Do you understand
Yeah,
how we work? And I just got back from Bosnia, and people just drink coffee. Like it doesn't even do anything, honestly. But it's like for the taste and just to like sit with your friend and chat. Anyways, I'm going now. Okay,
on a tangent.
two
Yeah.
questions. Two questions for tennis
Okay.
players first. Coffee, coffee. Like before matches, is it good or no? How many coffees a day for tennis players? Let's answer that first.
So coffee is, or caffeine, which is the kind of main compound in coffee that we're really interested in when we speak about sport performance. Obviously, some people drink coffee for the habit or for the taste. That's a completely separate conversation. But as far as the actual sport performance, it's massively improved pretty much across the board. So if you want to drink coffee, if you like coffee, keep doing it. It's probably helping your performance. Not only in not only is it helping your performance and being more alert, it doesn't create more energy. That's the one thing I want to get across the board. It doesn't create more energy, but rather it creates more alertness by making you feel less tired, because it blocks adenosine receptors in the brain. And so it makes you just not sleepy.
Mm.
And then in a sport like a skill sport, tennis is a skill sport, you tend to see big improvements when they use coffee. Um, in most sports across the board, the literature is quite set on the fact that coffee is good. There's definitely an upper limit to that, which varies for a lot of people. How much you have in a day. The recommendation is like no more than 400 milligrams. To give you context, small Red Bulls like 80 milligrams of caffeine. A small Bosnian coffee is way less than that, but the way Bosnians drink it, closer to 80 to 140 milligrams. Very similar to like a Starbucks coffee is like on average 110 to 140 milligrams of caffeine. So it's a substantial amount, right? That would be for what do they call them? I was going to say medium to large, or sorry, grande to
Grande
venti.
to Venti,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And if you're a Starbucks girly, yeah. So you could like consume a fair amount. Obviously, there's, again, we talked about this earlier. There's trade-offs all the time. So yes, it'll make you more awake. But if you start drinking it in the evening, yes, it will make you more awake. So so it still does that, and that might impact your recovery. So I would say to limit coffee if it starts impacting your recovery.
Okay.
And but as for how much coffee you drink beforehand, just it would be limited to the point where if you start to notice maybe you get jittery. Some people, it could be one Bosnian coffee that makes them jittery, and then some people it could be like you. I'm sure you could take down like 3 or 4 of them and still be like woo.
Yes.
So it depends on the person, right? Like that's very person dependent, but caffeine is something that nobody should worry about, again, unless they're consuming just in massive quantities and they feel like they can't survive a day without 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
That's where I would say, okay, let's start to revisit, like, are you sleeping? When was the last
Yeah.
time you had a coffee? Like kind of taper out the coffees after about 3 p.m., 3 p.m. if you want to be able to get to bed tonight, kind of thing, at a reasonable time.
Okay. Okay, good. I'll keep drinking my coffee then.
Yes. It also has, we also have strong correlations with improvements in heart disease. So from the normal side of nutrition, there's also benefits there, not just sport performance. So
Nice.
don't fear your coffee.
Good.
That was
Good.
the best news she could have received all day.
Let's go. I'm about to make coffee as soon as we're done with this conversation. Second one of the day, and that's it. That's it for today.
No
But some
judgment.
people say it's how it has acid. Acid, is that true, or
Sure.
am I making this up? But tell me a little
I
bit more
mean,
about that. This is the last question about coffee, but I'm just curious about this.
it might stimulate like acid reflux in some people. Those people that say that are typically people that have experienced that. And that's true, especially with high intensity exercise, if you like have it and then go on court.
Okay.
But that's again very case dependent on the person. I don't think that
Okay.
happens with everyone. And
Yeah.
I don't think most people are like Stan Wawrinka, where they order an espresso onto the court. I don't think they can do that. And that, again, even Stan, I've only ever seen it happen that one time in, what was it,
Yeah.
like Switzerland or something, so,
Yeah.
or Geneva.
Yeah.
So it's not really something to be overly concerned with if you have your coffee to start your day, or you have your coffee an hour before you get on court as you're waiting for a rain delay or something like that, because rain delays are often very sleepy times for players. And again, then you can start looking at what are the things you're adding to the coffee. Are you adding milk? Are you adding creamer? Are you adding, whatever you make your coffee with? Those are the kind of things I would start to look at first. Like, yes, can it impact acid reflux? It totally could, but look at the timing of it. And if that's happening to you regularly, then pick a different caffeine source. Often would help as well. You could do caffeine pills, because coffee itself would, to the best of my knowledge, be the reason that that's happening. Not so
Okay.
much, yeah, not so much like, for example, you do caffeine gum, caffeine pills, caffeine
Yeah.
in tea, pre-workout, although I wouldn't recommend most pre-workouts for tennis players just because they also have beta alanine, which can impact the skill sports because of that itchy feeling it gives them. It could impact your ability to, your feel on the court.
Okay.
Because you're too worried about how your body's itching the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like, when I'm so tired, like when I'm literally like running on like nothing, and I take that Alani,
Yeah.
the energy
Energy
drink,
drink. Yeah.
or there's another energy drink. Alani is mostly the one that I use. I have this energy fizz from Arbonne. It's like healthier, whatever. They're all like healthier, but like when I know that I take it and I like don't feel jitters, and I'm like, I'm just nothing. I'm like, God, I'm so tired when it doesn't do anything. Then I'm like, okay, Emma,
Yeah.
you need a 30-minute nap. You need to find a way to
Yeah.
get that, because like just trying with these energy drink more and more and caffeine and this, I don't know,
Yeah.
you just feel worse. Like I don't know, you
Yeah.
just feel so off. But
Yeah.
maybe for a little bit you're like, ah, but then it's
It
total
is
pressure.
temporary. It is temporary. Yeah. Again, it's just blocking these receptors that otherwise are, you know, what they're blocking is effectively a thing that lets your body know you're tired. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in your brain, right? So it's blocking it from joining onto a receptor in your brain. So
Uh-huh.
the caffeine comes in the place of it. And then you're like, okay, I'm not tired, but the whole rest of your body's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
it's just a mask ultimately. But the perk of that mask is, you can fight through more pain. You have a higher pain tolerance because of that, perhaps. Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
on the court, it gives you that mental edge a little bit. So there is definitely, and in the research, we have heaps of research to support that it's a performance enhancer. The only legal one, to my knowledge, that works that effectively and that reliably. So, but if you are starting to notice that, you're still tired after, and I say still tired, some people feel different in different ways, or that they don't affect you, maybe you just need to sleep more, which is oftentimes the thing that is very hard to communicate to people. But most of the people that are like, oh my God, I just have such low energy, again, assuming they don't have some other problems, some other, health related issues that they need to see a team for, the majority of people just don't sleep enough.
Yeah.
They're like, I need to go, go, go. I need to perform all the time. I need to make
Yeah.
sure I do my 7-hour morning routine. I got to make sure I do all of this, my 4-hour warm up, and then I'm too tired for my practice. Like, then we have to start looking at, what does your actual protocol look like?
Yeah.
I made a joke there, a 4-hour warm up. I know you're doing like 30 minutes, activation drills and
One
things, but
hour.
some people,
Yeah.
sure, but some people do like 1 hour warm up that you're like, okay, that was like a fitness session. Like, you didn't need to do that much, or like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then you're looking like, all right, is that the reason why I'm starting to lose energy in my actual training, which happens
Yeah.
literally the moment after I finish my warm up?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, or a match. So, your body is limited. Of course, you can raise that limit of energy by training,
Mm-hmm.
but your body is limited.
Yeah.
Wherever it's limited right now, it is limited. So you can't ask it to do more when it can't,
Yeah.
when you're not
Yeah.
giving it the chance to. So I think fundamentally sleep is one of the most important things. Ensuring you have adequate fuel on board with food, high enough protein intake, high enough carb intake, which is another issue for female athletes especially, but male athletes as well. Um, and then also, making sure that they're not overtraining. That one, in my experience, is more males than females, but it happens in females as well. The biggest issue, I think, in tennis as a sport, I don't want to take too much of your time here and rant, but I think fundamentally the biggest issue in tennis as a sport is appearance based, wanting to look a certain way and perform at the top. Because sometimes the reality is our genetic makeup. For example, I want to have, I have countless male athletes. I want to have shredded abs, and I also want to be the best. Well, the reality for some people is you can't have both. You might be able to have, better looking abs and still perform reasonably good, but at a certain point, there becomes a trade off to, you're no longer fueling your body enough. You're overtraining your body. You're too lean. Your body doesn't like it. And there really isn't, in most cases, especially in elite sport, there's no research to suggest that weight loss improves performance. So when people, obviously that's in elite sport, in some cases, if you carry a lot of adiposity, if you're a recreational player, recreational athlete, sure, maybe you could lose a pound or two, but in most cases, it's not guaranteed to help your performance. So that's
Yeah.
an issue I run into with, speaking with a lot of coaches and trying to, yes, I work with athletes and trying to help athletes and reframe their thinking around nutrition, but it's also reframing the behaviors of coaches and maybe helping them not reinforce potentially destructive eating habits and thought
Yeah.
processes in athletes. So
Yeah.
a lot of coaches will say, and I'm sure you've heard it. When we were growing up, I heard it a lot in all of our clubs, especially in the club that we grew up playing. At the time, it was a different time, right? This information was not available to us at that time, and especially to them. but it was like, oh, you need to lose a little bit and then you'll be better. Like the amount of times I heard that said to the girls in the academy was crazy. Oh, if you just lose a couple pounds and stop hanging out with those boys or whatever, like, you'll get better. And I'll hear that now and go, huh? Because it's not accurate, or it might be accurate, but how do you know? You have no, it could be, sure, maybe they lose a pound or two, but like maybe that hanging out with those boys and whatever is like their only release from tennis for a moment, right? So I think everything is very context dependent, and you really have to, forgive me for the use of the word holistic, but you really do have to take a more holistic view of their training, their entire protocol before making any small choice or any small movement, which is
Yeah.
why a lot of the time my approach doesn't sound sexy, because I'm never making drastic changes that will, change the way somebody lives, because if they change the way they live, well, then they won't do it forever.
You all know how much time I spend on court, and having the right equipment makes a huge difference. That's why I've been using Gamma Sports for over 10 years. Their grips, strings, and on court accessories like ball hoppers and nets are some of the best out there. Whether you're training or competing, Gamma has the gear to keep you ready to play. Check them out at gammasports.com and use code EMA25 for 25% off your order. So just two more questions quickly, because it relates to what we. So when you lose energy on the court, whenever you're struggling on the court, you feel like you're getting low on energy. What do you do? Like, do you like? I remember when I was just playing a tournament in Dominican Republic, and it was
Yeah.
hot, humid. I was losing like I literally was so tired and out of electrolytes. So I literally had at one point a friend bring me Coke, energy
Mm-hmm.
drink, Gatorade, a bar, banana, my electrolytes that I'm already drinking because I was really like struggling so
Yeah.
much. So not in that extreme case, but let's say I'm starting to feel a little off in practice or in the match. What do you recommend taking food or drink wise?
So let's first establish dehydration. Um, Dehydration is not just, oh, I need more water. So dehydration of even just 2%, which is not a lot. So if you are dehydrated by a total of 2% of your, hydration is what it's called, or your optimal hydration rate, if you lose 2% of that, not a lot, you're already going to be losing performance. Okay, so just establishing that you probably won't be performing at your best for a majority of the match, effectively. And that's going to impact a lot of things. Obviously, it's going to impact, your ability to have enough water on board to sweat and to cool down, and which is huge in that environment where it's hot. And in humid environments, especially, it's incredibly interesting because you're going to sweat a lot, but because it's humid, it doesn't evaporate off your skin. And if it doesn't evaporate off your skin, it actually doesn't cool you down as effectively. And then you start pushing more and more and more and more sweat. And that's when you see like, oh my God, I'm sweating like a pig. So obviously having a towel will actually help you sweat less. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but not by a drastic amount, but that's one thing you can do is just have a towel. So you wipe it off so that more sweat comes to the surface, and it helps to, because the water takes heat with it and it helps to cool you down. The other thing is, dehydration impacts your carbohydrate usage. So your ability to, all those carbs and everything, you had the perfect meal. Well, now it's not working as perfectly in your body because you're dehydrated. So your body's trying to just create energy as fast as it can, but because you're dehydrated, it can't do it as efficiently. So having more carbohydrates can help, because realistically, you can't change hydration that fast. And as you're trying to improve hydration by drinking more water or whatever, it's humid and you're running around and it's going down like this. So the best you can do is keep it or like slow the decline of your hydration, if that makes sense. I know that's like a terrible visual, but that's how you need to think of it. Reframe your thinking in tennis, because you can start perfect. You will never end perfectly hydrated. Never. It will never happen unless you're like Sinner and get off the court in 59 minutes last week. And even then he's not perfectly hydrated after. So the thing that you need to think about then is, yeah, like you said, I love your example, because Coke, while carbonated might impact your hydration or your hydration in the sense that you'll start getting gassy and burpy, which will make it a little bit tougher to drink more of it. But you'll
Yeah.
tend to notice in those moments, and you can speak to it if you'd like, when you drank the Gatorade and the Coke, it probably gave you like a little bit of like your eyes almost opened up a little
Yes,
bit more, like
yes,
almost
yes.
instantaneously,
Uh-huh.
the sugar just hits you. That's just because your body needs more carbs. It's wasting them quick. Um, and if you don't have that, your performance is going to deplete quickly. So that's why on court, having carbohydrates and fluids in the form of water. If you'd like electrolytes, that's great. If you're an average player, to be quite honest with you, like not a professional, you probably don't need electrolytes. But if you like them and you're just like, these electrolytes help me to drink more fluid, then okay. But just keep in mind, then the rest of your meals, you don't need as much sodium. So if you're eating Chipotle for 3 meals a day, you're already well over exceeding your sodium intake for the day. You don't need an electrolyte. If you're like I like to call it, a normie or general population. But athletes typically have a much higher threshold for sodium because they lose it in their sweat. And you can physically see it on a lot of people, like those white lines that it leaves on the clothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's sodium, right?
Yeah.
So the real issue there becomes hydration and how can you help it? So, in short, helping hydration is doing things like having more fluids, having more carbs with you, and having more sodium. So that was the other thing, is
Okay.
having more salt. So all of these things, like these Gatorades have it. Fruits will also have a certain amount, but in the worst case, having a salt packet, table salt in your water, just putting one little salt packet in like a 500 mil to a liter, if you're strapped on cash or you didn't have time to prepare or don't have any stores nearby to buy Gatorade and stuff, that's kind of how I would do it.
Okay. Okay, that's great. That's actually very, very helpful, very useful, I feel, for everyone.
Hopefully.
Anyways, I have a lot more questions, but we're gonna stop here. I'm going to see you soon in New York, so I'm so
Yes.
excited, and I do want for US Open. I'm gonna release this episode before, but while we're there,
Comment
let's do
if
an
you want to
episode.
see Comment if you want to see Emma beat me at tennis. just just
I was
let's see it
thinking
happen.
about it. It's going to be very good for you because I haven't practiced because I'm injured. So it's going to be great.
Nice. I have excuses already. Emma, I play tennis like I'm a scrub, dude. I play tennis like once a month, man. I suck.
um,
And I weigh 232 pounds. I'm like a brick wall on wheels, man.
I'm so
Jeez.
excited for this, but I want to find time to do an hour of one more episode because for the rest of my questions. Is that, and in
Sounds good to
person, it's
me.
going to be better. Okay. Um, well, thank you again
Sounds good
for
to me.
coming. This was fun. Thanks everyone for watching. If you like this video, this podcast episode, share it with your friends or somebody that you think there might benefit from this. And I'm gonna post Edin's social media handle here. Follow him, support him as well. If you just want to educate yourself more on everything. Um,
At Evidence Nutrition on all platforms. Evidence
Evidence
Nutrition.
nutrition. It's very
That's
simple.
right.
Okay.
All right. I will see
Thank
you
you so
later. I
much.
gotta go. Thank you so
Okay.
much for having
Thank
me.
you.
And I'll see you guys in the next one.